I'm Farhan Dalla, transformational trainer, and welcome to Elevate Your Life, a transformational podcast, an invitation to take the journey towards your deepest self. It is my intention to inspire you to connect, move, and meditate. We'll tap in, tune in, and dive in, and together learn and reflect from authentic, real, and transformative conversations. Let's get started.
Disclaimer. The information in this episode is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you have a medical condition, please consult a medical practitioner. Hi, everyone. My guest today is Melina. Melina is a mindset and transformational coach dedicated to helping individuals heal emotional patterns, realign with their authentic self, and create meaningful, fulfilling relationships. Her work is rooted in personal lived experience, having navigated and transformed challenges related to abandonment, emotional pain, and limiting beliefs. Upon being introduced to Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, she healed from physical and emotional pain. This includes healing from a severe fall in 2020 and chronic constant knee pain. Her heart opened, allowing her to forgive her transition mother and heal her relationship with her father while he was still living. Because of her own transformation, she felt called to include these principles into her work. Today, she incorporates mindset, emotional awareness, and meditation-based practices into her coaching, helping others understand the mind-body connection between our inner and outer world. Through her coaching and guided experiences, she supports people in shifting from disconnection to self-awareness, empowerment, and emotional clarity so they can build healthier relationships, improve their inner world, and step into a more aligned and abundant life. Hi, Melina. Welcome to Elevate Your Life.
Hi, how are you, Farhan? Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Well, the pleasure's all mine. And just reading your bio, I'm fascinated with your personal journey and also the work that you do. And we're going to dive into all of that. So, without wasting any time, I'm really anxious to speak to you about all this and so much more. And so, I'm going to kick this right off with a question about your physical challenges that you've experienced, especially, the fall that you had in 2020 and the chronic knee pain. What were some of the challenges that you were experiencing? How was that impacting your life? What were the doctors recommending? And yeah, let's start from there. That's plenty.
Yes, so I fell in 2020 during COVID, and I had already pre-existing pain from back in the day when I used to kickbox, and I had severe pain constantly, and I was told I needed 3 surgeries. I actually injured 5 parts of my body on the right side, and was told I needed 3 surgeries. And that really scared me because I was by myself, and I thought, well, the recovery period is going to take forever, and who's going to help me through surgery after surgery? So besides it being COVID, I was in debilitating pain constantly. And I just, it's really scary period in my life where I just felt really trapped by my circumstances, and obviously sitting at home in pain. It was really, really emotionally challenging to tackle.
Yeah, and 2020 it seems like a very difficult
Mhm.
time for so many of
Yeah.
us. So compounded with what was already happening in the world. We were all in lockdown. My mother transitioned in that time period as well.
So-
All of us were going through something to some degree. And I can only imagine having chronic pain on top of that, plus the stresses of an uncertain
Mhm.
future,
Right.
um, everything that we were hearing and not hearing. How were you functioning with this pain? Like, were you able to work? Were you, able to, function physically? Like you said, you were alone. How did you manage day-to-day tasks cooking, laundry, all of that. I'm a physiotherapist, by
Oh,
the way,
okay.
so I understand musculoskeletal pain because I work with a variety of patients in that regard
Mhm.
every day.
Yeah, so I was coaching online at the time. I was coaching thousands of women, and I don't really believe in taking pain medicine. So I was just dealing with the pain. I'd had pain in my knee for a long time from kickboxing. So I just every day did what I could, and I functioned to the best of my ability. Mostly I was laying down and resting and just praying that I would recover and the pain would subside. And when I was coaching online, I actually missed one of my sessions because it was a really bad day for me. And one of my clients um, said to me, "Have you uh, considered looking into the work of Louise Hay?" And I said, "Who's Louise Hay?" And she told me it was about the mind body connection and how you can heal naturally. And I'm very, very skeptical by nature, and I just didn't really connect to that. And I looked up Louise Hay. I knew she had written some books and she had passed. But I really was very skeptical about the mind having the ability to heal the body. I just didn't believe in it. I have a very logical mind by nature. Um,
Right.
so,
And we'll get into more of that
oh,
soon as well. And I do want to dive into that. But I also want to get a sense of like, when we
mm,
introduced you, the emotional challenge that you were facing, you mentioned the abandonment and some of the
yes.
emotional pain. Are you okay to shed light about some of the history there?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so I was originally born in Sicily and moved to the United States. And um, during my life in Sicily, I had it created abandonment issues because I was sent to a school and I wasn't being picked up by my parents. And then later on, when we went to America, my parents separated. So that created abandonment issues with my father as well. And not realizing later on in my adult life the impact that those imprints as a child created um, from deep fears of being abandoned that the patterns actually ran in just about every romantic relationship I had with a man. I had so many stories around the the connections, and I was unaware that they were had to do with childhood and the disconnect that I felt and the fear of being left and abandoned. So that
Right.
um, was a subconscious program that I had that was deeply embedded for me.
And I can relate to that too. Many of you have perhaps listened to my story about how I healed my scoliosis, and it was the origin of that was also rooted in an abandonment issue out of a situation that happened when I was about 2 years old. I won't go into the details of it here, but I will recommend that if you haven't, definitely listen to that. So by me bringing it up, it's just to acknowledge that that was, something that I've experienced and many of us have, and not knowing, and we have these relationships that, fail or don't work
Mm-hmm.
out, and we're like, what's going on? And, when we do this inner work and it sheds light on that, and all of a sudden we see where the pattern surfaces. And so, as part of your healing journey, you started to discover after Louise Hay, which I've studied as well. I've read her books in the early 2000s, and but Dr. Joe certainly has allowed me and many others to go deeper.
Yes.
How did you learn about Dr. Joe's work, and what made that like what was it about that that resonated with you versus like Louise Hay's work?
Yeah, great question. So, another client of mine was told me about Dr. Joe Dispenza, and the difference was that Dr. Joe is, still with us and teaching and writing books and doing workshops, whereas Louise Hay I couldn't connect with, and maybe also because Dr. Joe is originally his family's from Sicily, and I remember him talking about his Italian background, so I really connected with that as well. But what made the difference for me was I started reading his books, watching his videos, and I started reading Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and I just felt like that was the missing link. And then I went on to um becoming supernatural, and I thought, oh, I this is fantastic. And I kept telling myself I want to be supernatural. I'm becoming supernatural, and if Dr. Joe can do it, I can do it. And the fact that he recovered from a spinal injury and he was a neuroscientist and his research was more science based, I really connected to that, to the point where I said, well, it's it's COVID. I cannot go outside. I might as well go in. And I just started listening to a meditation that he had online. And that's where I started to do Dr. Joe's work and dive deeper.
And as you started doing that, what did you start to notice?
Yeah, so, and this still is incredible to me and it blows my mind. I remember the exact date because I decided to just experiment on myself. I mean, I was at home, I had a lot of time in my hands, so I was detailing everything. It was November 17th of 2020, and I started a meditation. It was about an hour and 48 minutes. And I did it every morning, I think sometimes twice a day. And within, I would say, a week or so, I started to notice that my knee pain was going away. And that
Amazing. Which meditation were you doing, by the way?
it
Do
was,
you remember what it was
yeah,
called?
it was called the title was also supernatural. So I was really rewiring my mind into the supernatural mindset. And
Mhm.
I had just really connected with the meditation. Um, it, the name of the meditation was Becoming Supernatural online, but I know that's not one of Dr. Joe's typical names for his meditation.
Yeah. Well, he has a ton of
Mhm.
meditations available on his website. And for those of you who don't know, Dr. Joe is a chiropractor, author, and lecturer. He's known for his work in mind-body healing, neuroscience, personal transformation, blending quantum physics with ancient wisdom to teach people how to change their reality through meditation and changing beliefs. Stemming from his own recovery, as Melina says, um, uh, from the result of a spinal cord injury. And Dr. Joe also has retreats where he teaches this material. And I'll have a link to his website where you could learn more. This is great. I want to really break down how you healed. So, what else did you do besides read his books and meditate? What part of you, you know, as far as like your belief systems, do you feel you needed to change in order to heal? Because Dr. Joe often talks about if you want to change your reality, you have to change your personality,
Yeah.
right? And if the body you're in has created the disease, then your future self has to include a different personality to create a different personality. So, what was that change or transformation journey?
Yeah, so during that period, I'd also had another failed connection, and I'll be very transparent. I just hated my life. I hated the way I was feeling. I hated the way my connections just weren't working out. I was extremely unhappy, and I did a lot of work to understand why these cycles kept happening, why these uh, patterns that weren't serving me, why these connections weren't moving forward were happening. So I had to really look at the abandonment, the emotions, the fear, um, the sadness, and the anger that I had for years and years and years, because as a child I actually had repressed a lot of my emotions because I was just constantly over functioning. And I realized that I believe now that the repression of those emotions were part of, I think, what was affecting my body in a negative way. And I released a lot of emotions. I faced a lot of um, my trauma from the past. And so my focus wasn't even on healing my body. It was just on changing. I just wanted to change. I would see people happy in connections. I would see people thriving. I would see people doing really well, and I just wanted to be one of those people.
Yeah, and I love that. And that reemphasizes Dr. Joe's message. And
Yes.
he often says we don't meditate to heal, we meditate to change. And the healing is the consequence of
Yep,
changing.
exactly.
Um, okay, you attended Dr. Joe's retreat. What was your experience like? How did that support your healing, especially your emotional healing?
Yeah, so I attended my first Dr. Joe retreat in Denver of 2022, and we did a heart opening meditation. And I had saved the seat next to me for another woman. And during that meditation, I had a very profound experience where I actually felt my mother, who had passed, sitting next to me. It was a very surreal experience, and I actually had an exchange with her where I was able to forgive her. And for the first time in my life, I felt a wall come down that had been protecting my heart for a long time. And one of the things that I realized also as a coach is that, when we have walls up, they're not just protecting us from the bad stuff, but they're keeping the good stuff out as well. So in that moment, I still remember I really was able to. I didn't understand how, but I was able to just feel so much love in my heart for my mom and release a lot of the resentment and anger that I had felt at the circumstances of my childhood, not at the feelings of abandonment that I felt she had contributed to creating. So that was a big turning point for me to really open my heart even more.
Thank you for sharing that. And with your heart opening the way you described, how did that change your relationship with yourself?
Yeah, so and that's a beautiful question. Thank you for asking that, because one of the most challenging things, and I think one of the most important things that I had to realize was how much I hadn't loved myself, and how much that played a part in my connections. And as time went on, and my heart opening, I realized, well, I've always put other people's needs first, and I've self-abandoned over and over and over. And that was part of the struggle, because I always felt like, there's not enough for me, and there's this person isn't giving back to me. And in fact, I've learned now that I believe that our internal world is a reflection of our external world, and the people that were showing up in my life weren't given because I wasn't giving that to myself. And that was the turning point where my heart really opened, and I was able to see how much I wasn't giving to myself. and I've since made lots of changes to prioritize myself and adapt boundaries, which I never had. So really do things that um, nurture me now.
Hmm. I love that. And what would you say was the gift or the message for you from your healing journey?
The gift or the message, I mean, the gift has been that have, I'm experiencing a level of health I've never experienced before. I, every day when I look at stairs, I sometimes I avoid them because the pain is still in the back of my mind. But then I say to myself, no, you're fine. You can go up and down the stairs. And it, it it's just given me my life back, my health emotionally and physically. Which to me it it's still um I don't have a word to describe it, but it's magical but incredible.
That's a good word.
Yeah, it's just really incredible because if anybody was in my head and understood the level of skepticism that I have for and the level of logic that I have that I need to touch and feel, and I haven't connected to the word faith in most of my life, and then to just have this kind of health restored in my body, it it's phenomenal. It's incredible. It's amazing. And I'm so grateful every day to the community, to Dr. Joe, to people doing this work because it is possible to heal. And I have to remind myself of that every day. But I want people to know out there, and I do this work to let people know it is possible because many people don't believe in it, but I've done it, and many people in our community have done it. So,
Many have.
mhm.
I want you to look a little bit more ahead in time, and we're gonna ask you to ask your future self, what would they have you know, or what would she have you know today?
My future self, what would she have me know today? Wow, that's a powerful question. She would have me know that the limits that I have are set by me, that we truly are, and I'm using Dr. Joe's word unlimited, but we truly are unlimited, that we are creators and we are masters. And um, if I think back to the previous versions of me, that's what I would say. And I've only just begun to connect with what's possible. And now that I'm embracing this realm of gratitude and happiness, because most of my life is
Mm.
living in survival mode. And so it's exciting because just in the past few months, there's been so many synchronicities in a beautiful way, including this podcast. So yeah, the level of success that I can only dream of is possible, and it can happen to me too.
You just, when you get that one shift, like one day where you start to feel better, and then it turns into another and another, and then it just motivates you to see how far you can go. And when,
Absolutely.
you've healed or gone through a journey like you have, you think, okay, what else can I do, right? Like
Exactly.
you get inspired to connect deeper, to go further into the practice, and then just allow even to the universe to give you what it's been waiting to give you because you become more receptive to things that are beyond your imagination
Yes.
even. And sometimes these opportunities and synchronicities, they come out of nowhere. Right? 'Cause you become like you're in this state of flow and everything's like coming at you, and you're just like, wow, how did that happen?
Exactly. I'm excited for more,
It's
Brian.
amazing. Yeah, and what I love about you and many others that do this work is we all want to find ways to help others. We want to give back. And when your heart is open, the first thing you want to do is give back. My idea was to do this podcast to share people's stories of transformation because I wanted to create a platform to allow people to share their stories and inspire others. And I know yours will inspire many. And you have chosen to incorporate this work into your mindset and transformation coaching
Yeah.
practice. I want to shift gears and talk a little bit about what you do and the services that you provide. Um, but before we kind of do that, what would you say in, in your experience and your journey has really sort of shaped you to do the work that you're doing? Like, what are you drawing upon that has really helped to define you to be like, I want to put this into the work, to do it, um, to be of service to others with, my practice of mindset coaching?
Yeah. So when I first dived into coaching in 2009, I did an experiential coaching program that was amazing. And we were asked to pick a platform, and my platform was to support women that had been abused. And my own journey, my own roots, there's been some um, emotional, physical abuse. And I have seen that most recently against children. So why I'm building this company, why I'm a coach, is to really support people in releasing the anger, the toxic patterns. Because to me, doing this work and for now years, um, the anger and negativity and toxicity that leads to violence comes from um, most of the time the way we were treated as children or adults. And I think I wanted to do this work to help people understand that that doesn't have to be the response. It doesn't have to, the patterns of dysfunction don't have to continue, that they can be healed and they can be stopped, and life can be different and life can be wholesome and happy. And there's some work, as you know, involved in doing that. And at times it's not easy, but it's well worth it. What you experience on the other side is just amazing. And it's possible.
Yeah, what I'm hearing you also say is that your past doesn't have to define your future.
Exactly. Exactly. And
Yeah.
we can break the generational trauma I have. And that's something, and I want to lead by example. Everything I teach I guide my clients into, everything that I support them with, I'm doing the work myself. And
Hmm.
it's, again, it's so rewarding and well worth it when you're on the other side and you release the patterns that
Yeah,
don't
and
serve you.
that's amazing. You do one-on-one mindset and transformation coaching, guided emotional healing and self-awareness work, relationship and connection focused experiences. My question is, what are some of the most common emotional or mindset patterns you see people struggling in relationships in your practice?
I think that the biggest one, the mindset, is fear of abandonment, um, which I think is at the core of many things, including people pleasing patterns or not using the voice, suppressing the emotions. As one of my clients puts it, I don't want to rock the boat. So really making themselves small and feeling invisible. So because there's fear there of being abandoned. and it's something that I work with quite a bit because I that's one of my core wounds, and I seem to attract clients with that core wound. So we dive deeper into those patterns.
Mm. And many of us have gone through periods in our life where we feel stuck
Mm.
and we're not moving forward. And, my question is, how do you guide someone from feeling disconnected or stuck into a place of clarity and empowerment?
Yeah, great question. So the first steps is to understand what the patterns are, what the root cause is, without necessarily disturbing the trauma. Just understanding the story that that particular person is telling themselves, and what is driving that particular subconscious thought or unconscious patterns that repeat the cycles, and really understanding that that is a story that we're telling ourselves based on a wound that happened most likely during childhood, and that generally happens as a survival pattern to protect yourself, because we don't know any better. Because, as you know, when we're young, our brain is mostly in alpha states, and it's a sponge. It's like a sponge. It just absorbs information. So what was conveyed to us as might have been a protective measure, we interpret it uh, as we're not allowed to do that, or we can't say that, or we can't be a certain way, and it creates patterns that later on manifest in later life that don't serve us.
Hmm. And I know, like with your practice, there's one-on-one, coaching, but does any of that, or do you recommend anything along the lines of doing physical work or breath work? Is that part of your practice, or do you prescribe it to other practitioners? Like, how does that come into like the sort of like the holistic aspect of dealing with people in the types of clients that you service?
Yeah, so I do some breath work during the sessions, and I also recommend meditations. I've started to actually record my own meditations, and I include some breath work there. But I also believe that if I understand that there's deeper trauma, I always think that there's mm, it, that they should see a therapist also, because coaching is very different from therapy. And I myself have had experience with therapy, so I think there's a place for both. Um, but yeah, I recommend whatever else they may need, if it's health, if it's working out. Um, Meditations, I always recommend those because they've been of great benefit to me, and especially in the morning or at night, as we know. So yeah, those are just some of the tools and some of the recommendations that I make.
Yeah, in Toronto, we have this place called the Rage Room, and I definitely visited a few times.
I've
And
heard
it's
of that. I've heard of that.
like, and you basically get suited up with a mask. You're given a baseball bat, and then there's a room
Mm.
filled with things that you get to break. And I definitely went to town.
That's fantastic. That's great. I have to say I'm a big I do a lot of journaling. It really supported
Mm,
me in releasing a lot of um emotion, a lot of trapped emotions. So yeah,
yeah,
but also speaking to the
yeah.
person, sharing my truth, using my voice in a way that is not confrontational, combative, more of from a feeling space. Yeah.
Yeah. Melina, what is the core message you want listeners to take away from your work and your story?
The core message is that it's never too late to change. I started this journey later in life, and obviously it's been amazing, and it's just beginning, as I said earlier. But really understand that, I hear people say I'm too old, I'm too unhealthy, too overweight, too whatever it is. No, no, you're not. That's just a story that you tell yourself. Um, and I really want people to believe that, because I'm not as young as people may think, but I will not give away my age. And that's been actually one of the benefits, Farhan. I look younger than ever, and I feel younger than,
Amazing.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, Dr. Joe says you don't need a skincare routine
you
by
really,
doing
you
this work.
really don't. You really don't. Emotional distress,
Yeah.
emotional toxicity really does weigh you down, your mind and body.
Hmm. Yeah. And Dr. Joe also says that the intention to change must be stronger than the addictions to the emotions of the past. And if you have that intention, then you can heal. And you've shown that both emotionally and physically. You're leading by example, sitting here talking to me today, talking about your story. Maybe 5, 6 years ago, you wouldn't have even thought that this was possible, and yet here you are. And so I'm so, appreciative that we're here today sharing this conversation. And I really want to help you get the word of your work out so that you can help others through your work and through also Dr. Joe. So, do you have a website? How can people connect with you? And if so, what's the name of your website?
Yes, thank you. So the name of my company is Resolve Coaching, and it's spelled Resoul. The word soul is part of that, VE. And I chose that name because it really reflects my energy, the resolve. And also it's a play on the word soul, because I really had to reinvent myself, really had to dig deep down, revisit my soul. So the Resolve Coaching is the name of my company, and I'm planning on launching more website based. Been doing mostly one-on-one coaching. And my Instagram is melina.life.coach, and my email is melinalifecoach@gmail.com. And that's where people can find me, and I'd love to talk to anyone. I do a complimentary first call, just a clarity call, to understand if working with me is best suited for the individual.
Amazing. And I'll have those links in the description of today's
Thank you.
session. Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Melina, I want to thank you for being my guest today and sharing your message and offering others today what is possible. I love this community because once they have healed, they're all finding ways to give back and support others through their own healing. Thanks so much for joining me and helping others through your work. You are leading by
Well,
example, as you say, and it's appreciated. Thank you so much.
thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
I'm Farhan Dalla. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's episode of Elevate Your Life, a transformational podcast. I hope today's conversation has elevated you in some way and inspired you to connect, move, and meditate. I'd really appreciate your support by following and rating this podcast. Come back soon and join me for another transformative conversation.